a question comes in, can I take my favorite tree that's planted in the yard with me when I move?
As long as you disclose it.
Okay, so you
And
can.
you restore the property back
Yeah.
to its, probably you wouldn't want to just leave the roots hanging. In other words, soften that up, maybe put a little grassy, put a little sod, kind of restore that nicely. But I suspect that if it's a fairly large tree, you're probably not going to want to take it because the cost may outweigh how much, the reward, how much you really want to take that. But yes, so long as you disclose it up front, the contract's written to that effect, your disclosures, everyone knows it, it's all above board, and certainly that you restore that property, don't leave a big hole in the front yard, I think you're fine.
Did I say this was a speed round?
Yes, yes.
I did. Yeah, okay. Over to Brad. That means we go quick on the answers, but that was okay. I understand. Brad, can one of our listeners, can I attend the inspection and influence the outcome?
Yes, you can attend the inspection. No, you cannot influence the outcome.
Possible if they give you a couple of bucks?
Oh, speed round. No, we have to follow specific standards of practice, and actually it's probably more of a detriment. We will hand you a flashlight and let you go look for any defects that you want to. You can report back to your favorite home inspector, let us know what you found, and then we'll discuss whether or not it's really a defect. We do that all the time.
All right. Very good. Let's go back over to Cora. By the way, my son Greg joining us now, late, but he's here. This is indicative of other scenarios, Cora. So just take the question is, can I include my pet fish in the sale of the home? Greg, we're doing a speed round with some unusual questions. Can I include my pet fish in the sale of a home? But it could be other things like a pool table or
Ferrari.
A Ferrari, right. Actually, there is one about that. Yes, Cora, answer, please.
Short answer is yes. Again, as long as it's disclosed, and be aware that personal property may require a separate addendum so that there's no argument that it has value and affect financing.
Got it. From a seller, can I request a second inspection if I disagree with the first one, Brad Lawler Home Team Inspection?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if they're saying, should they hire another home inspector to do it? If you're asking this, I mean, that happens periodically. Since we follow the same standards of practice, we're probably going to end at the same point, but sometimes things are overlooked, admittedly. I'm not going to poo-poo the idea, but I don't know how many major defects, would be found by a second inspector, but I can't say it's not a bad idea. And I want to go back to Cora's point just a second ago about things that were left behind. We were once asked to inspect an old Triumph TR3 that was left in a garage as part of the sale. They thought the home inspector could inspect the car too.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
The word home inspector.
Yes, that's kind of what we said.
Right. Yeah. And to take that one step further, one of the other questions that came in from one of our listeners, can I leave my collection of garden gnomes or do I have to take them with me? Cora, Greg.
Same rules apply.
Same thing. It's negotiable, correct? As long as it's disclosed and it's agreed to. Have you ever had any garden gnomes, Greg? I guess not.
I mean, I was going to say, unless they're like affixed to the wall and you see them while you're viewing the home and expect them to be in the contract. We always say write everything into the contract. But yeah, I mean, if there's a hole in the wall, you patch it. You got to remove the garden gnome, you got to disclosure and communication are key.
Yeah, insert TV as well instead of garden gnome if it's a mounted wall TV. Fix the holes. This one's for everybody. Can I fix issues myself instead of disclosing them based on the inspection report? I guess more Cora than anybody else.
Sure. So it depends on how the contract's written and the repair request is accepted. A lot of agents will include language like work to be done, repairs to be done by a qualified contractor or a certain contractor. In general, it may say licensed, although it may remain qualified, which doesn't necessarily mean licensed. So the short answer is yes, but it depends on what the contract says. So be careful.
And the question is, am I qualified? I know how to change a GFCI. I can change the breaker in my electrical panel, but am I qualified? Am I licensed? That's where, again, it goes down to be specific, communicate, don't leave anything up for interpretation, because that's where you start to get into some gray areas. So if you're dealing with things of electrical manners, get somebody licensed if you're worried about it. And if you're trying to fix things, don't wait until the inspection. Go through the house yourself. And if you need to put a GFCI in the kitchen, it's not that hard. You could probably Google how to do it with pretty easy fix, and you get it done, And then when the inspector comes in, they're not going to flag you for it. So
Greg, you signed on late, Greg. It's called speed round, just FYI. And so just incidentally on this issue, if you're going to have the seller fix the items themselves in the repair response, you need to say, seller will repair the items themselves personally. Something along those lines. Cora is shaking her head, which tells me I'm on the right track. We move forward. This one, I guess, Brad, another one that you're going to love this. Can I ask the inspector to go easy on the property?
Usually we get it the other way around. The buyers will often say to us, we want to know every little thing that's wrong with it. Sometimes we've had sellers meet us and say, hey, we've disclosed a lot of things, so please don't look real deeply. But again, we've got to follow a standard of practice. And I've never had a buyer say go easy. I've had listing agents that have maybe suggested that.
Really?
Yes,
Whoa.
we have.
But
Yeah.
wait, if a seller says to the inspector, hey, I've buried a couple of things, go easy, do you guys go even harder on it then?
No.
Because they're looking for...
I think we're still following that same standard of practice. It's still the same list. But yeah, maybe we're looking a little bit more closely for things that have been hidden. But
and I know it's speed round, but I want to touch real quick back on the last question. If you do have something that is required by a licensed inspector in the repair request, you can always counter back and say, these things will be licensed, these things I don't want to, and then you negotiate. Speed round.
Okay. This may be the final question on this segment. Cora, this from a seller, what if I want to keep the house, I want to sell the house, but keep the mineral rights, and followed by from someone else, can I sell the house, but not the land underneath it? Cora.
Yes and yes.
Oh, and now, go a little further, because now you've got our interest.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I get permission to
yes,
talk.
man.
I love it. Give me the mic. Yes. So absolutely, you can reserve those mineral rights. In fact, there may be certain lending institutions or, that may have concerns with that. But nonetheless, if that's something where like, hey, I want to be able to dig for oil on this property, it could be valuable to you. So you may want to reserve certain rights, and there's certain legal documents to effectuate that. And yet you still sell the real property, but you have the right to come onto the property and extract those lovely minerals. And then you had mentioned your other point was, remind me, Bob.
Well, it was both the mineral rights or keep the land underneath it.
Yes, keep the land underneath of it. So in fact, a lot of ground leases, are held that way, where a lot of our commercial buildings will be built and owned, but they don't own the land underneath. So it's quite more common in commercial more than it is in residential. But short answer, yes, always have to have your documents properly drafted in order to capture that.
Very good, important point. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist, as we all know.